Hey there berries, welcome to my Final Fantasy 14 everything to do with Materia guide. So this guide is going to include things like spirit bonding, how to put materia in your gear, what kind of materia you should be putting in your gear, how to get materia, how to re-roll materia, and anything else that I may have missed from that intro. There are lots of like little subcategories to materia, and everything in this video is going to be related to Dawntrail, but you can apply this to any previous expansions of materia as well. So in Dawntrail, we got introduced grade 12 materia and grade 11 materia. So for example here, this is grade 12 materia, the XII, which is Roman numerals for 12, and we got XI, which is Roman numerals for 11. So grade 12 and grade 11. Now the materia in general across the expansions have had kind of two different properties. So you can see here, for example, between the party 12 and the party 11, this party 12 gives 54 party, whereas the party 11 only gives 18. So the difference there between 54 and 18 is quite large, but they have different rule sets. And these are both from Dawntrail, the latest expansion, but you can see the stats are vastly different, so I'll be explaining why that is in just a second. So the main reason why I'm making this guide is because my Savage group is kind of new to Final Fantasy, and they want to learn how to get materia in their gear ready for doing Savage into crafted gear. Now, crafted gear is slightly different to gear that you would normally get from dungeon drops and boss drops. So like my character here, for example, like these gloves and stuff were from they token drops from tomes. You've got like boss gear here as well that have like 2 slots, so guaranteed slots. Now crafted gear also has these guaranteed slots, but you're allowed to overmeld, which is something called pentamelding onto crafted gear. So I'm going to take you to a little paint sheet here. So this is what gear normally looks like. So if you have all pieces of gear, you won't actually see these red circles, but you can only do this going into the red on crafted gear. Now, armor pieces and weapon pieces on your left-hand side are usually what you see on the left. So you have the 2 green guaranteed slots, and let me just write armor here. And on the right-hand side, you've got that 1 guaranteed slot here, and you usually see that on accessories. Now, everyone can put materia into these green slots. I'll show you how to do that if you're not sure how to, but everyone is able to put materia into these slots. So generally in the Dawntrail expansion, you would want to put grade 12 materia into these green slots, because they give you the most amount of oomph. If you remember, we're going back to the party materia here. Party gives 54 from grade 12. And then party only gives 18 on the 11. So of course we would want to use the one that gives us the most amount of stats. But the problem is that party 12 and all the other grade 12 materia cannot be melded onto a piece of armor or equipment past the first advanced materia melding slot. Basically what that means is, on this, when you're doing overmelding on crafted gear, so you won't be able to do this on boss drops, so this is only on crafted gear, you can actually put a 12 materia here and another 12 here. These other slots you're going to have to fill with other materia. So in this case, for the best, most like stat potential here in Dawntrail, you're going to want to put 11 grade materia in these other slots. So that grade 12 materia has that limitation. In Endwalker, you had the grade 10, for example, that had the same limitation with as the 12s. So do read the materia that you're picking up. Don't get too excited by the stats. Make sure you're reading the small print. And if it says, cannot be melded onto a piece of equipment past the first advanced materia melding slot, you can that is the limitation. You can only put it in those first couple of get the guaranteed slots, and then one after that. Okay, and this is only on crafted gear. I've got to make that really clear. This is crafted gear only on the overmelding, on these red circles. Now, how do you get those materia into your gear? Well, if you're only interested in the guaranteed slots, and you don't have a crafter leveled up yourself, if you go to one of these NPCs called a Materia melder, on the mini-map, they'll look like a blue materia on the mini-map with a little hammer next to it. There's usually one in every major city somewhere. So if you go and click to the Materia melder, click Materia melding, and then if I just go somewhere into my armory chest, we can see all of these green circles here is where I can put materia in my gear. Anything that has colors or lit up like that, that means there is already materia melded. Now the materia melder can only put materia in guaranteed slots, and the materia melder will not be able to do overmelding for you. So here, for example, if I wanted to put some materia in this ring, I would click on the ring, and then you would see these stats at the bottom. So here it says, available materia enhancements, critical hit 0 out of 162, termination 0 out of 162, spell speed 113 out of 162, and party 162 out of 162. So when you're putting materia in your gear, it's always going to be the substat materia, substat stats. So piety on this ring that I'm hovering right now is already capped at 162. So if I try and put a piety materia in, it's going to highlight red, and then down up next to the name here, it's going to say piety plus 0. So that means that I will not be able to get any stat bonus from there. So putting materia into that ring would be completely pointless. So you would be looking at trying to fulfill one of the other stat requirements that is on this, and ideally not going past the cap. So here I might want to put crit in, or determination, or spell speed. Now do note there are things like direct hit that you can put on it even though it isn't listed. So it will just create the next category of direct hit here. You can even go really weird. You can put like GP into, or CP into combat gear. Not like there's much reason to do that, but that is an option if you want to. But basically you can put other materia that is not listed here. So even if your stat that you're interested in putting into your gear isn't listed here, it just means it's probably at 0 out of the cap, and you should be fine putting that materia in as well. But the main thing you need to pay attention to is that you're not hitting the cap on the materia enhancements, because once you hit the cap, the materia will just be not as strong, and you won't be able to keep putting materia in of that stat because you won't get any value for it. The game will let you, but you won't actually get any stat value from that, and it will highlight as red. So here, for example, if I wanted to put a materia into this ring that we're looking at, say I decide for some reason to do GP, it will say 100% successful, and then you can submit the request, and it's going to cost you a little bit of gil. Now going back to the paint artwork that I've done, the problem is with overmelding is that you saw that those green slots have a 100% chance of melding. These will never fail. These are always guaranteed. This one over here is also 100%. Once you start going into, let me move away from that hammer. Once you start going into the red is where it starts getting riskier, particularly for the accessories. Now, I can't quite exactly remember the percentage numbers on the top of my head, but I'm going to give you a very vague idea of what that's going to be, and that can vary also depending on the grade of materia that you're putting into the gear. If you're using materia grade that is way below the item is intended, you actually have a higher chance of succeeding, which can be useful if you are looking into maxing out a stat, but you don't need a full amount of a current expansion's materia to do. So that's usually more beneficial for gathering or crafting, because say you might want a bit more GP or CP, like +1 or +2 GP or CP, you would use very low grade materia in the last slot to increase the percentages. But generally, say for example in this gear, we're going to be using grade 12 materia to fill in this overmelded slot. That would be roughly around about a 17% chance of succeeding. Then it goes down to 10, then 7, and then the actual last slot over here on the accessories is 5%. So it's very similar over to the other side. So this first red slot on the accessory would be 17%. Then it would go down to 10, 7. That's the general gist of it. I can't remember if that's the exact percentages, but that is the general kind of how it works. It gets harder and harder and harder to put materia in. There have definitely been cases of tales of people trying to put like 50 materia attempts into the last slot and all of them failing. That is totally possible and can happen, or you can one tap it and do it first time. Now the only way you can do overmelding is by someone that has level, in this case, level 100 crafting. If you're putting materia in level 100 gear, you're going to need to request meld someone that has level 100. So that could be, a guildie that has it, or you have to ask someone in the chat, or have to find some way of getting the crafted gear from, like, say, the market board, and then requesting a craftsman in the chat to see if they can do overmelding. They will probably want a small amount of guild tip for doing that for you. But generally there's no resources required on the person that's doing the meld request. The only thing is that you need the materia to be able to put it in. So for example, for the first 12 grade attempt, you're probably going to need around about 5 to 6 grade 12 materia to have a almost guaranteed-ish success of it working on that first slot. And you're going to need a lot more grade 11s in order to get to the end of the pentamelding. So that's the gist of it. So when you're doing crafted gear for Savage, overall you're looking at maybe around about 100 grade 12 materia if you're going like full pentamelded. So about 100 grade 12s and about 400, 500 maybe. Grade 11s, it depends on how lucky you are or how unlucky you are. It could, in theory, you could one tap everything, or it could cost, you could lose like 100 materia on the 10%. It's just the way the dice rolls sometimes, right? So, yeah, that is basically the gist of how melding works. Now you're probably thinking, well, okay, how the hell, Bizzleberry, am I going to get 400 to 500 grade 11 materia? Well, there are multiple avenues to do this. The most basic one is just playing the game. Crazy. Just playing the game, you will get materia from doing like the dungeons, from quests. You will be picking up a small amount of materia. Nothing like the amount that we need, but there will be little trickles amount from your gameplay. Also, you should always be doing something called spirit bonding. Now, if you've never done spirit bonding before, it's actually a relatively easy process and anyone can do this. So if you press C on your character, if you mouse over any piece of armor, weapon, accessory, anything here, it will say the condition, which is the durability of the gear, whether it's about to break or not. And then under that, it's going to say spirit bond. So for example, on these legs, it says spirit bond 95%. Once that hits 100, you are able to right click the gear and then click extract materia. Alternately, you can do something here which simplifies this a lot easier. If you press P, and if you go under general and go to materia extraction, you can put that on your bar as well, like I have. So if I just click that, this is going to say all the spirit bond condition of all the gear that I've got currently equipped. But you can go through your armory chest as well. So here, for example, in my armory chest, these are all the things that I haven't spirit bonded because I'm lazy. A lot of these are from Endwalker and things like that. But just for an example, if you just click on one of these things that are spirit bonded, left click, it's going to say once the materia has been extracted from an item, its spirit bond will be reduced to 1%. Proceed. Click yes. And here I got Piety Materia 9, which is previous expansion's materia. So you might find in your armory chest, you might have a lot of materia there to spirit bond and maybe make some money on the market board. If you get garbage materia that doesn't sell for much, hold on for that. I'll show you how you can use that very shortly in terms of rerolls. But the general gist is you're going to want to be spirit bonding and extracting materia out of your gear, especially level 100 stuff, as often as possible. So your battle gear, for example, it will get spirit bonded quite quickly through dungeons, from doing the trials. Like trials give quite a lot, for example. Also, spirit bond increases in rate. There's a few ways how you can make this process faster. So one of the main things that you should be looking at, and I recommend every single person buying them, and having it uptime, like majority of the time, is having a spirit bonding potion. So here, I've got the superior spirit bond potion, and it gives increased spirit bond gain +6. So what that basically means is that's a 3-hour potion on me at all times. So it doesn't matter what activity I'm doing, if I'm doing battling, if I'm doing gathering, if I'm doing crafting, the spirit bond rate on my gear is increased. Which means I get to extract material from my gear more often, which means I get to use that or sell that on the market board more often. And everyone really should be having like high uptime on this. There is also another buff as well that you can get from squadrons, which is a spirit bonding manual, which is basically a replacement for an FC buff. Alternatively, if you are in an FC buff and you are pushing for materia, then you might want to run something like, do we have it? That which binds us. So that also then increases your spirit bonding. I believe that is +2. So those can be really useful tools there in order to increase your spirit bonding. Another one is also using a crowned pie, but that's kind of expensive and kind of niche, but that's something that you don't necessarily have to do. There's also a gear that has plus spirit bonding as well. There's some very, very niche items. I'm not sure if I actually have on me any right now, but there's like a meteor ring, I think, that has like +2 spirit bonding. Some really weird, like a Realm Reborn ones. I don't recommend you using that for spirit bonding. It's much better to have an item of your current level in order to spirit bond off to get current materia off. So that's everything that I believe I want to cover in spirit bonding. One thing I should probably mention also is if the item is high quality, the spirit bonding is also increased on that. Also, every single materia that is on a gear also increases the spirit bond speed. So I believe it's 20% faster on base every materia that you have on and every item that is high quality. So if these boots were high quality, it'd be 20% faster in base. Because this item that I'm looking at right now has +2 materia inside that right now, that's got +40%. If it had 5 materia, it'd be +100%. So even when you've spent all that materia on your crafted gear and pentamelding it, it will mean that you are getting materia back more frequently, which is going to be useful for using in the future, or maybe selling on the market board to recoup some of that money that you have lost. So it's not all bad news doing pentamelding. That is the spirit bonding side of gaining materia. If you do get garbage materia, I'll be talking about how to reroll that soon. So next on the list, we are going to be talking about obtaining materia. So we've already talked about spirit bonding, but the main way of getting materia is through clusters. And you can also then choose specifically what you want. Put those materia there. So I've got these clusters here. There are a couple of ways that you can get these clusters. So this cluster here, for example, this cracked prismatic cluster will give me grade 11 materia. And the cracked nova cluster will give me grade 12 materia. The main way you can get these, well, there's two primary ways. If you press U to go to your duty finder, and if you're a tank or a healer in need, some of these duties here, for example, give cracked nova clusters and cracked prismatic clusters. So you can get a couple that way. But the primary way is doing something called hunt trains. And they're running fairly frequently right now. Basically, the gist of it is there's a lot of people going zone to zone, killing. In Dawn Trail, it's like 2 bosses per area. going back to the aetheryte crystal, changing instance, killing 2, going back to the aetheryte crystal, changing instance, killing 2, and then changing zone, and going through all the different zones in Dawn Trail, killing all the bosses. Now the bosses have a good chance at giving both a cracked cluster and a cracked prismatic cluster. So that's why I've got so many, because I have been doing hunt trains. Also, you're getting a currency called nuts. These nuts can also be exchanged for materia of your choice. And we're going to head to Tuliolol, which is the Dawn Trail first capital. So if you don't want to be spoiled on that, then I guess don't look. But there are, let me just take you down here. So there is the materia exchanger just down here. So there's also a materia melder here too, if you need that. But here at the materia vendor, you can choose specific materia that you want. So you're able to choose, you know, if you want skill speed, if you want crit, determination, you can choose exactly what you want from these, which makes it really, really handy in terms of, it's just not random materia that you've been given to. It's like you can choose what you want, and that's a big help and boon when you're going through pentamelding, to make sure that you're getting exactly what you need and when you need it. So that's where you hand those in. There are ones for gathering and crafting called, but they are not in the game, I believe, at the moment. So that's probably going to be at a future date. Going down into where the hunt board is. So if you just go over here, near the retainer bell. Oh, also should probably add, make sure you've done your hunt quests here. I think they come from this guy here, Ball a Goal. Make sure you complete those to even get nuts. There might be another nut unlock prerequisite, but just make sure that you have that, otherwise you won't be getting any nuts at all from doing the hunt trains. So here's the Dawn Trail hunt vendor. So here you can exchange your nuts for, there's a mount here and a cat and a couple of other things, but this is where the other materia is. 150 for the grade 11s and 400 for the grade 12s. I would recommend that you try and do as many hunt trains to get the 12s as possible, so you don't have to spend them for nuts, and then you got a lot more, because overall you need more grade 11s anyway. So try and use your nuts to buy grade 11 materia that you need. And you can only get combat materia from here, not gathering and craftsmanship. So to get involved into a hunt train, basically the best way to do it is either join a hunt train link shell, so that will get posted in game, like saying, for me for example, it'd be like there's a hunt train starting soon at this place on this server, and then you start heading over to that server, and then you group up waiting at the aetheryte crystal, and then you all head off at the same time, and then the hunt train conductor will be posting coordinates in the chat and then in the zone chat, and you'll be heading off to those places. Do look for a group for those though, so that you can get maximum credit from it. So it's a bit like Fates in a way, but you don't get a medal to indicate how well you've done in terms of doing the hunt boss. So it's always better to be in a group, because it's very, very easy to get max rank per kill, essentially, which is generally 40 nuts per boss. And they're really, really easy to do. There's also discords as well, depending on what region you're on. I personally think it's Faloop that I use for hunts if I'm really looking for them, but fortunately I'm part of the link shell, so you might want to look at some Discord servers or ask around in order to try and take part in those hunt trains, because that will be the main source of how you are getting those cracked Nova clusters, on top of doing spirit bonding whenever you can, essentially. Moving on to, if you have garbage materia that you're not interested in, and maybe it's not selling very well on the market boards, there is one thing that you can do with that. So if we go to Central Thanalan, all the way back into a Realm Ribbon, I'll show you what you can do. Now I believe once again there is a minor blue quest here. I think it might even come from him in order to unlock that. Let me see, we are heading to, yeah, here, the bonfire at 2413. So we're going to be speaking to Mutamix. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to transmute Materia. And we can give him 5 Materia, and he will give us Materia that we have not given him. So for example, Gatherer's Grasp rank 12, Materia is doing really badly, and the Quick Tongue and the Piety. All of that is Materia that I'm not interested in, and I've gathered over time just for free. So I'm going to put, say, 3 of these in, 1 of those, and 1 of those. So how it works is I will give him the Materia. If they're all of the same grade, they have a chance, a very small chance of actually going a grade up. So if this was grade 11 Materia I was giving him, it actually has a chance of going to grade 12. But since grade 12 is currently the highest in Final Fantasy XIV, it will just give me a guaranteed grade 12 back of a random kind. So in practice, it shouldn't ever give me back a Grasp Materia 12, a Piety Materia 12, or a Spell Speed Materia 12. It should be giving me something completely different of a grade 12. So the first couple of times you do this, there will be this little pause, but once you do more, it's a lot quicker. So here we got a Savage Aim 12, which is actually really good. That's crit plus 54, and that is going for, I think, around about 25,000 gil at the moment, whereas those other materia that I wasn't going to use are only worth like 5. So I got my money's worth. I got a materia that I can use in my battle gear when I use it in my crafted gear. You can do the same here as well with the 11s, so it might have a chance. So I got Piety materia here. So if I put 5 Piety materia in here, I won't see a Piety materia grade 11 again, but there has a small chance of going up to grade 12. So it's either going to give me one grade 11 materia back, or 1 grade 12 materia. In this case, it gave me back an 11 and a CP materia, which is actually pretty nice. So you can see like the RNG value here. If you got really garbage materia that you're never going to be using, you can actually get some nice stuff back. Let me just do one more transmute here. And then this time I got a Gathering plus 36 materia, which is worth, I think at the moment it's gone down in price, I think that's worth about 60,000 gil. So I've actually made profit now from doing the materia. So a little bit of gambling there, for sure. But yeah, I actually made money from doing that materia transmutation. So especially like the Piety, the skill speed, the spell speeds, there might be 1 or 2 other kind of garbage materia there. If you have got that in your retainer or somewhere stored somewhere, then it is worth bringing them to here and changing that in. You could also, if you've got lots of Endwalker materia spare, like the grade 10s, you could bring those here and have that have a chance, a small chance of going up to grade 11 if you wish. But honestly, that's up to you. That might not necessarily be worth it in terms of gil value, but you have that option if you want to. One thing I should probably have added to the spirit bond. So I do apologize how I've gone back to spirit bonding here after talking about the very beginning. Gear does make an impact of what you're actually getting from spirit bonding. So generally, if you've got more physical damagey kind of stuff, you're more likely to kind of get the red materia, I've noticed. Not to say it's impossible to get it from like playing as a white mage, but playing as a white mage, I was more likely to get things like the Piety and the spell speed, for example, which aren't exactly very good materia right now. So if you are looking to do combat materia through spirit bonding, you should see increased materia of higher value generally from playing stuff like the physical melee DPS rolls. So you don't see stuff like, you know, tenacity, piety as much. It's not guaranteed that you're not going to see that at all, but it will lean a little bit more into those, just because your gear generally naturally has those kind of like, you know, the crit stats and the determination and then the direct hit. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else I really want to add onto the materia thing. I think that's a lot of it kind of covered in basic fundamentals. Yeah, I hope that helps you out. I hope that helps a lot of the new people coming into Savage with the crafted situation, because people are like, oh, why do I need crafted gear? It's the same item level as, you know, all the gear that I've been doing in trials and things like that. But if you actually add up the amount of substats you are missing from not having crafted gear, it ends up being quite a massive amount, particularly on accessories. Because each one of these pieces, so imagine I was having full crafted gear, apart from the shield on Paladin, because that doesn't quite count. But you would be missing out on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, potentially 11. 12 grade materia, which is already around about, I want to say, between about 650, 700 substats. That's like 650 to 700 like direct hit or crit or something there you're missing. And that's not even talking about the grade 11s on top of that as well. So you're talking around about 1,000-ish substats that you're missing from not actually doing proper pentamelding. Now, pentamelding is... full pentamelding, everything is bloody expensive. Like, but you are rewarded with all of those extra substats. And I would generally urge people, if you are looking to do Savage, try your best to get into at least like quadras, ideally. Very, very important that you get those extra grade 12s into those red slots. Shouldn't be too bad to do that, really, and you're getting a lot of... that's where you're getting the bulk of your extra stat boosts, and then everything after that is just like little things added up. Will add up, but you know, little extra bonuses here and there. So do try and aim for around about that quadra meld at least. But anyway, all the best berries, take care, good luck if you are doing Savage. Hope the Materia guide helped you out, and be sure to subscribe for more Final Fantasy 14 guide videos. Bye!